Bellator welterweight standout, Oliver Enkamp. Thank you, Oliver, for the time today. How's life treating you?
It's going very well. Just approaching the end of my fight camp, and I really look forward to wrapping things up and flying over there. Been locked up here in Sweden for a long time now, so I look forward to some traveling.
Yeah, let's get into that. Being locked down or locked up in your country, when you last fought, it was right before everything kind of got wild in the world. When you got back home, how long after did things start to, get tighter, stricter in your country?
I think I actually did the last event that Bellator held before everything shut down. That was February 22nd. And in Sweden, we started coming out with these restrictions in the middle of March, I think. So just a few weeks afterwards. And from April, we haven't been allowed to do any contact to training. So at first we got to move outside because the restrictions said no training inside in groups and all that. So we continued our activities after just 2 weeks, but outside and keeping safe distance between every participant. So during that time, I basically just did strength and conditioning, but no real martial art training. And that kept going for 2 months. So it was right after the fight.
Outside of training, did your life become uncomfortable in many ways?
To be honest, I would say the opposite, because it gave me time to focus on something else, because I had just had this long training camp, and as you might know, the weather is not the most fun during the winter here. It's very dark and cloudy, and you kind of get depressed, especially when you're in a fight camp, just seeing the same walls, the same gym all day, So it gave me something else to do, because I couldn't train anymore and I just had my fight. So I started exploring other areas of my life, and I started working more at my own family gym, and I thought it was real fun having these classes outside, because I'm also a martial art instructor. So it gave me new ideas. I had to come up, how do we train outside? I had to reschedule what we usually do, and also gave me more time being home, because I'm always in the gym 24/7. So I actually got some downtime, and so to be honest, it was not that bad for me.
That's good to hear, man. Now you mentioned your family gym, and I believe you also own a gym. Was there any negative effects
Yeah.
to the business?
So people were very understanding, and we didn't shut down. We just made it safe to train outside. So we had to change the schedule, of course, but most people showed up anyway and trained outside and kept a safe distance and all of this. So it wasn't that bad. And as soon as the restrictions started to lighten up a bit, we were allowed to move inside with less participants. So we have been able to keep it rolling, but somewhat less activity. So it could have been worse.
Definitely could have been worse for a lot of people, but hey, you got a fight coming up and you've been training, and that's the best thing for a fighter, to get away from the negative energy, I guess.
Absolutely. Gives you time to focus on something completely different.
Definitely. Now, you're a great representative of karate, but you also do have that stand-up background. But I was watching something, and then one of your videos popped up of you fighting
Okay.
in Thailand in Muay Thai, but you're using
All
your
right.
karate stylings. That was about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
How was that experience,
Yep.
being in Thailand fighting Muay Thai 10 years ago?
So that was actually right before after I graduated high school. So I decided okay, when I graduate, I wanna travel somewhere, and a lot of people I knew had been training Muay Thai over there. So I wanted to try it, and I flew over to Phuket, and I stayed at these bungalows just a few hundred meters from the gym. So I was there for 9 weeks, and just training, twice a day. Two of my teammates followed me, and it was like, for a fighter, it's paradise, because so nice training, and the weather is awesome. The food is super delicious and cheap, and it's seriously like the best thing ever. And I was in such great shape during like the second month, so I asked, like, is there any possibility to fight? And they put me up against this guy. They told me he's like a South Thailand champion, but I don't know if they say that about everyone. These Thai guys have like hundreds and hundreds of fights. And I had only been competing in karate and kickboxing at home. So I had never thrown like knees and elbows, and always wear like protective gear and shin guards, because I just turned 18, right? And in Sweden, that's the rule. You can't do full contact to the head if you're under 18. So it was pretty funny, because there was no weigh-ins. They're like, you and you look kind of similar weights. They didn't check your wraps or gloves or anything. I just picked a pair of gloves from a shelf. They put me on a pair of wraps, like a big chunk of coach tape. It was like rock solid. I could have had like a horseshoe in my glove. Nobody would have noticed. And then the fight was pretty exciting, because I did all this weird spinning techniques, jumping techniques, and I remember in the first round, an elbow swooshed right in front of my face, and I'm like, oh yeah, you can do elbows. So I remember jumping after him, throwing the 12-6 elbow. That's illegal in MMA, and I hit with my tricep, and the arm was so sore the whole week after. I couldn't extend it. It was like this, stuck in this position. So it was a very fun experience, and that video kind of got viral and got a lot of views. So it was fun, because I had this camera team following me to film everything, and also film my training and preparation. So that was very cool. It was my professional debut, 2010.
Yeah, and you're training at TAGAMORE Thai, and that gym has become something massive in the MMA world now.
Oh yeah.
You got Peter Yan, Volkanovski, Shevchenko
Right.
fighting out of there. How was that place? How did that place look when you were there? Because right now it's like a gigantic facility.
Totally different, because I actually went back to the same place 2 years ago. So there was 8 years in between. And when I was there, you had Tiger Muay Thai. It was a small, narrow street. You had like one restaurant, and I think another gym that was called Dragon Muay Thai or something. Yeah. And the rest was jungle, was nothing. And when I flew back there, it was like, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 gyms, like CrossFit. They had yoga. They had like, I don't know, at least 10 restaurants, hotels. You could rent rooms, and it was just buzzing with people, and all of this, Westerners walking around on the streets with Thai shorts, and completely different. Like everything there exploded. I was so surprised. But I understand it's like a big, like tourist, like a source of economy for the Thais. So, yeah, why not ride the wave?
Yeah, but it's great that you were there before all of that happened. Like you were there when it was the gritty street. Now it's like the tourist street, but still, the killers are out there training. So it's great training anywhere you go. Now, I've heard you say that fighting MMA, for you, it's for the martial arts aspect, not really for the competition. Where does that come from?
So I've never been a competitive person. It's not in my nature. So I remember already from childhood, like playing video games with my friends. If I feel like my friend is starting to lose and get angry, I would let him win, to not create, like a conflict or like a bad mood, because to me, winning or losing has never been important. So my approach to the whole martial art is more of that of an artist. You know, to me, it's my craft. It's very personal. It's a way of expressing myself, and I've always been like that. Like in school, I loved like art and music and those kind of subjects where you get to express yourself in different ways. And martial arts is, to me, the ultimate way of expressing yourself. And the competition is just a side effect, because it's always me against myself. It doesn't matter who stands across the cage from me. It's just like a boxing bag to me. So no one can get in my head. I don't try to get in anyone else's head, because there's nothing personal or competitive about this to me. But I'm very, very competitive with myself. So I have a lot of self-critic because I want to constantly improve. So it's only a loss if I don't learn anything from the fight. And even if I win, I try to see like, okay, what did I do good? What do I want to improve? And that's also the motivation that keeps me going, like going back to the gym. Okay, I want to improve this, because I've never been satisfied with any fight, because I know my potential and how much better I can do. And that's what drives me and gets me back in the gym to want to fight again, to reach that perfection in the art, you know. That's probably never going to come, but still, it's about the journey and not the end goal.
Yeah. Well, you had those back-to-back losses a couple years back, and how much did that change you? I mean, you said you were competing with yourself, but of course, inside the cage, you have the factor of the guy trying to kill you in there.
Sure. Yeah. That was a real like awakening for me, because I was 7-0. I had 7 professional wins, but those were in Swedish local leagues. And my 8th fight was my UFC debut. So it came on like two weeks notice. And the UFC contract is something that every fighter strives for when you start with MMA. And you have this plan how you're gonna get there, but suddenly it just landed on my table, and it was so stressful. And I just had to surround me with a good team, and I felt like if I just get through this and do this fight, I'm gonna feel like a winner, because it was such a challenge just getting through with all the pressure in my hometown. Like, it was the biggest arena, the Ericsson Globe, 13,000 attendance. And I had a very like scary looking opponent that outweighed me by like 5-10 kilos. From that fight, it went to a decision. So it was my first loss, but I still consider that a win regarding how much my personal brand raised, because I like doubled my followers overnight, and I got like international recognition. I was not just a Swedish fighter anymore, but I was suddenly in the UFC. So that was a very big moment for me, but also the first time I felt I really got tested. So I analyzed that fight a lot with my coaches, and I learned so much from my opponent on how to fight at this level. And that really raised my game and made me much better fighter. And the second fight that followed was a bit controversial stoppage. That was in the London in O2 Arena. And I got to face another scary knockout artist. And I had all these lessons with me from the UFC debut. But I stepped into a punch. I had this view of me that I wanted to be like a karate fighter in MMA, instead of having like an open mind and using everything that's effective, So I kind of put myself in this box, like I want to show that karate is effective, instead of using 2 arms and 2 legs and making the most effective fighting style possible, So I stepped into a punch, and as soon as I landed on the ground, the referee threw himself on me and waved the fight off. And I didn't get like a second to recover, because it was just like a flash knock where you pass out and then you're back even before I hit the floor. So I would have kept on fighting, but the UFC decided to cut my contract then, and Bellator picked me up. So from those two losses, I learned so much, and I grew out of this like karate style or whatever style you want to have, and realize that it's just fighting. There's no styles. It's not boxing, it's not karate, it's not Muay Thai, you know. It's two arms and two legs. How can you use it to defeat your opponent most effectively? So that was also another great win to me, because I got those lessons. And obviously it's improved me a lot, because now I have two back-to-back wins in Bellator, and two first round finishes, one by submission and one by KO. So it's been a great ride, and now looking for the third one.
Yeah, now, it's basically just getting started, right? It's getting started.
Yeah, yeah,
You
more or
put all
less.
the pieces together. You got this fight coming up, Bellator Paris. You're facing Emmanuel Dawa. Did you get a chance to look him up and, assess the style?
Yeah, I did. But there's not a lot of recent footage. Like his last two fights, I didn't find them. So the last fight I found was from 2018, and a lot can happen in 2 years. I can just like talk from my own experience, because 2 years was the last loss I had, and all those lessons learned after that. But I have like a sense of what he likes to do, how he moves, and what he's good at. So I put up somewhat of a game plan with my coaches, and he seems like a athletic, powerful guy, just like me, and he comes from two wins. We have similar records, so I think this will be a very entertaining fight for the audience.
He's been out for 16 months now. He hasn't competed. Do you believe in ring rust? Do you believe in like the cage rust that people talk about?
I think it's depends on the fighter and your mentality. Like, why do you fight? And some people who are very goal oriented, or like result oriented, they need to fight constantly to not lose the edge. And also, of course, it depends on how you train. Like, do you train competitive, or do you relax in between fights? So I think ring rust is real. For me, it's not. I don't notice any difference, and that's probably because of my attitude to the fighting. It's about me and not about who I fight. And then I believe you can challenge yourself in different ways. So during the COVID situation, for example, I wasn't able to compete, but anything that takes you out of your comfort zone makes you grow and makes you like get that competitive edge, that anxiety, you know. So what I did was I went skydiving. So threw myself out on an airplane for 4,000 meters, you know, and that was a completely new experience to me, you know. But it's just another way of stepping out of the comfort zone and getting more confident as a human being.
Wow, that
So
is
we'll see for my opponent though, because it's his Bellator debut, so that's somewhat pressure on him. It's his hometown, so he has his home crowd, and that's even more pressure. So we'll see if it affects him.
now with training and and all the things that are happening around the world and in your country. Did you have to make adjustments, or have you added anything new to your training in the last 7 months or so?
Um, Not really, because as I said before, during the breakout of COVID, I wasn't allowed to do any martial art training, so I focused more on strength and conditioning, and I think that can be seen now, because I feel much more powerful, and I gained a lot of like lean muscle mass. So I'm not really heavier, but I look definitely more muscular than previously. So that has been good for me, and I like to have a little bit shorter training camps, because I'm always training, so I'm always in shape, and too long of a training camp just extends the wear and tear on your body. So we got somewhat lighter restrictions at the end of August, I believe, here, and that was enough for me to start like training for real before this fight. So I've had a full camp that I've been able to train as usual.
All right. Now, what do you envision in this upcoming fight? Do you envision another first round finish? Because you got back to back. What about 3 in a row?
Right. Yeah. That would be nice. Like, but I always aim for 3 rounds because since my approach to this is like that of an artist, I want to get as much time in there as possible. So I prefer having a 3-round war that looks real exciting to the audience than having a first round KO. So if I could choose, I would let it go 3 rounds and get the finish at the last second, to get as much experience in there as possible. Because I mean, I trained like for 8 weeks. I don't want to go in and have a 10-second knockout and that's it. I want to get everything out there that I've been practicing on, and I think I'm gonna fight a little bit different now. You will see that because I've done a lot of adjustments in my fighting style, some new tactics and ideas that have come up, and I'm gonna try to implement them now. And it'll be fun to see if it works.
I'm waiting for that, man. I'm waiting for it. As long as you don't take out the spinning stuff, I want to see the spinning stuff too.
No, that's like a signature move of mine. But I still have a spinning kick to throw. Last time was let's see.
Now, you go in there, and stop Emmanuel. You beat him. You get 3 in a row. That puts you in a good position in the welterweight division. I feel like Bellator has probably the welterweight division is the most stacked. And are there any matchups, any guys that you look at and you're like, oh, that's an interesting matchup for my style to, as a martial artist to compete against? I'm thinking like MVP, you know what I mean? But
a lot of people have been saying that, but it seems like everyone is calling out MVP these days.
Yeah.
So I've been thinking about this because I have a 4-fight contract, right? So after this I have one more fight, and Bellator has hinted for a long time they're coming to Sweden, and I really want to be a part of that event, and like on the main card or main event, even if they would allow me. So my goal or my vision would be to have a nice performance in this fight, and say they come to Sweden sometime early next year, and I would have the possibility to do a main event there. And that's more important to me, like where and when I fight than who I fight. So really, when it comes to opponent, I want to fight whoever the fans want to see me fight, whoever will be a good matchup, because I don't really follow the division that much. I don't really look at fighting, like it's very personal to me. I mostly focus on my own development, and I only watch if there's a really big fight or like one of my teammates fights. So I don't really know who's in the division except for the big names. But the Sweden event, that would be a awesome next one.
All right. Well, before the Sweden event comes up, you're going to go to Paris, France, October 10th, Bellator 248. Yep. Oliver, I'm very excited to see you back in action, man. Your first 2 fights have been very entertaining. And, man, this one's going to be a great one, I feel, because the other guy, he is a finisher, too. He's got a load of knockouts, and it looks like he'll challenge you on the feet. So that's always exciting.
Definitely.
Thank you so much for the time, man. And good luck and all the best.
Thank you. Thanks, man.
Hey guys, Sasha Platnikoff here, letting you know to tune in to SCMP Post Fight for all your weekly martial arts news.